Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing another premiere draft of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. This is a ridiculously good pack 1. I'm going to go with Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but there's two other cards here that are also excellent that you could definitely take if you prefer those colors. Red is, in my opinion, the weakest color in this format, but Fable of the Mirror Breaker is such a powerful rare. I think it's worth taking the Fable of the Mirror Breaker here, because there are good red decks to be had. In particular, I'm a big fan of red-black, if we can end up in that color pair. But we'll see. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, huge, incredibly powerful card, absolutely breaking things in plenty constructed formats, so limited is no different. The card does just so much for only 3 mana. But we have two premium uncommons, Blossom Prancer and Life of Toshiro Umezawa, that you could take as well, because black and green are really strong colors in this format. And these cards aren't significantly weaker than Fable the Mirror Breaker in draft. They are very huge 2-for-1 plays and just really good cards in general. So quite an excellent pack 1 to open up. And lucky enough for us, we get past multiple solid red cards here, mainly just Flame Discharge as a nice instant speed removal spell that can kill pretty much whatever you need to. So I'll take the Flame Discharge here. The main thing that I'm happy about when I see this pack is that there's nothing really good off-color. The best off-color card is likely the Prosperous Thief for a ninjutsu deck, but Flame Discharge seems like one of the best cards in the pack anyway, and it can stick to red with Fable the Mirror Breaker, so that made that pick pretty easy. And now for pick 3, the strongest card is an Okiba Reckoner Raid, 1 mana to drain your opponent for 2 life and get a 2/2 menace. You do split up those abilities amongst a few turns, but that is still a huge impact for only 1 mana. Great for any deck in the format. Take an Okiba Reckoner Raid, and that gets me started into my favorite red color pair, if we can get there, going to red-black. So we'll see if that can keep up, and it looks like it is for now. There is a Moonsnare Specialist out of blue as one of the strongest cards in this pack, but the other two strong cards are Era of Enlightenment and Assassin's Ink, and I'm going to go with the Assassin's Ink here for sure. Dragon Spark Reactor is pretty fun. You can definitely get it to pop off if you have a really dedicated artifact-focused deck, but it's a little bit more narrow than Assassin's Ink, which is just excellent instant speed removal. So I'm going to take the Assassin's Ink here and go from there. Really great start. We have just 4 cards in black and red, and they are all great cards. So if we can keep this coming, if we can make sure that red and black aren't getting cut, then that would be fantastic. Obviously, there's nothing I can do to stop the people on my right from drafting red and black, but I've got my fingers crossed here that this color pair works out for us, because that's where I would like to be with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Alright, pick 5. This is a pretty weak pack overall. I'm not super into any of these cards. Careful Cultivation to channel a little Human Monk out and ramp up a bit is fine. Mirror Shell Crab is fine, giving you a nice little counter spell early in the game, and a big crab late game. And then the other strongest card is Dokuchi's Silencer, which you can ninjutsu one of your smaller creatures back to your hand, then have this deal combat damage to your opponent, then discard whatever you ninjutsu'd back to destroy their best creature or planeswalker. So this is probably our pick here, because we're more into black and red than anything else, but it's not super strong. None of the top 3 in this pack are super strong though, so it's a fine pick. We will take the Silencer. Pack 1 pick 6 now. Some pretty good options for black-red. Chainflail Centipede's a fine filler aggressive creature. Black and red do care about having artifacts in the deck for a lot of other cards. So Centipede goes up in value for that. I think I'm still just going to take Seismic Wave though. It's kind of like 3 damage for 3 mana at instant speed to any non-artifact creature, and then 1 damage to the rest of your opponent's non-artifacts. So 3 mana for 3 damage, that's right on par with what you want generally in limited, so I'll take the Seismic Wave here. The Unstoppable Ogre is also nice if you're like really aggressive. Same with that Menace Aura. So plenty of decent red stuff still getting passed around here. But I think Seismic Wave is the best for us right now. And now there's nothing in red or black. That is a bummer. We could take the Automated Artificer, because we're likely to have a lot of artifacts. But it is still a 2-mana 1/3, and when we're not casting artifacts with it, that's all it is. And currently we have 0 artifacts, so Artificer's not looking great here. Should probably be speculating on another color and just taking the strongest card in the pack, and I think that strongest card is Jukai Preserver or Mirror Shell Crab. Jukai Preserver in a vacuum, but Mirror Shell Crab would fit better with our red, because red-blue artifacts is definitely a thing you can do. Sure, I'll go for the Mirror Shell Crab over the Jukai Preserver. I've also been drafting a lot of green. We would prefer to be in some different colors today. So pick 8 now. We do get the Unstoppable Ogre and the Iron Hoof Boar back out of this pack. Both of these are fine, neither are incredible. Nothing great off color. Fade into Antiquities, solid removal, that's about it. So I think we just take one of the on color cards. I'm going to take the Iron Hoof Boar. I like the flexibility of it a lot, being a combat trick or big trample haste finisher later in the game. And the 1 toughness on the Iron Hoof Boar is a pretty hard sell if you don't have ways to buff it up a little bit. Like if you have a bunch of Kumano Faces Kakazan, so it comes out as a 5/2, then it's kind of insane. But 1 toughness against a lot of the cards in this format can be pretty bad. Aki Ronin really doesn't do much of anything, so I'm not going to take it even though we're likely in red. I'll just take the best card in the pack, which is Tamio's Safekeeping, which is super unlikely to get played, but I think that red card was a 0% chance. Now I can take another Iron Hoof Boar. These white cards are all pretty medium, so we'll stick to red. Now a Covert Technician, a blue artifact creature that also dumps out other artifacts from our hand. Could give us a start towards blue-red artifacts. If we open some good cards in that color pair, or if we get past some good stuff and it ends up being more open. We'll see. This will be pretty fun. It's going to be pretty interesting. Ninja's Kunai actually solid for red-black for sure. You've got some cards you could draft that care about having artifacts get sacrificed, and that is an artifact you can sacrifice. Pack 2, pick 1 now. We can take another Okiba Reckoner Raid. We can take a Lethal Exploit. I'm not completely married to any color yet, so I could take Cloudsteel Kieran and move towards red-white or black-white or something here. I think I'd rather just stick to red-black and take Okiba Reckoner Raid. I think we're doing perfectly fine in that color pair. There's also a Roadside Reliquary that we could consider. We get to run this over one of our lands, and all of a sudden we have a land that can cycle into 2 cards late in the game, which is real great, because we are likely to be able to have an enchantment and an artifact on board somewhat often. Especially if I take this Okiba Reckoner Raid, we'll have 3 enchantments and like 3 artifacts in the deck already. It's a pretty good start to that, but I'm just going to take the Reckoner Raid here. Really, really, really like that card. Okay, pack 2, pick 2. Pretty big dud here. There's only been an uncommon taken out of here, and there's just nothing for black-red. I guess there's Chain Flail Centipede, but Shattered States Era, Aki Ronin, pretty unimpressive cards. Scrap Welder does not do as much as it looks like it could, so it's kind of just a 3-mana 3/3. Yeah, there's very few synergies with the Scrap Welder that actually pop off and do much of anything. Best card's definitely Spirited Companion, but I just passed up on a white rare. I think it's a pretty committal move to do that, so we should probably just stay committed to red-black here. Yep, pretty weak pack. The best stuff going on is the green-white stuff by far. These 2 are great cards, but everything else in the pack is like mediocre at best. We'll take the mediocre on-color card. Pack 2, pick 3. Oh, there's an Enthusiastic Mechanaut for blue-red artifacts. I've got double Okiba Reckoner Raid and an Assassin's Ink for really good black cards, and then Silencer and Chainflail Centipede for the more filler stuff. I think I'm deep enough into black to not hop on the Mechanaut train and instead take the Leech Gauntlet here, which is pretty great. 2-mana 2/2 lifelink, and you can reconfigure this onto something else later to put lifelink on a different creature if a 2/2 ends up being too small to attack in or block well. So that is a card I like. As I've said before, we're doing pretty decently on actually having some enchantments in this deck because we have some good sagas, so Kami of Terrible Secrets could definitely be a nice little value play. 4 mana for 3/4, gain a life, draw a card if we control an artifact and enchantment. So we want to keep drafting some sagas pretty highly, but we're doing well on that right now with Fable and double Reckoner Raid. I'm going to take any more Reckoner Raids and Fables I see, so I think I might go Kami here over Steelbreaker. Usually you'd be on Steelbreaker in this archetype, but I think Kami's actually sweet. And if we get some Clawing Torments, those are some more cheap enchantments that are nice to have on board for the Kamis. So I'll take the Kami over the Clawing Torment, see if I can get some Clawing Torments later to add to the pile. Now we've got a Sokenzen Smelter, which is really nice with expendable little artifacts. We don't have a ton of those right now, but if we get a Fable of the Mirror Breaker going, that's going to spit out some treasure tokens, which is insane with the Smelter. We can definitely draft some other cards to work with the Smelter's ability. Kami of Industry is a really fun card at the top end of these red-black sack decks, because it reanimates one of the things you sacrificed earlier. Steelbreaker's fun too, but Smelter has the highest upside if we can draft some other cards that work well with it. Nothing much here. Do I just take like a Guide Bot? Doesn't feel like a Guide Bot deck where I'm going to sit here trying to draw some cards over time, but maybe. Doesn't feel much like an Infiltrator deck either. And those are the best two cards. Kami of Industry is fun, but usually run like one copy, and they go really late in the draft pod. I guess I'll just take a Guide Bot here. Shattered States Air and Reckoner Shakedown are not cards I'm particularly into. Pack's pretty weak outside of a Banishing Slash. Guess I just take this this rare here. But we're quite unlikely to play that. Another pretty weak pack. Wouldn't really be into this pack at all, no matter what I'm playing. Even in white, I'm not a big fan of Skyblast Samurai or Born to Drive. Yeah, mediocre stuff all around. I'll just take the Technician. More mediocre stuff. Best cards here are Season of Renewal and Bamboo Grove Archer in green. Just take a Cackling Emergence. I would rather not run this card because it does choke you on mana pretty badly. This plays as like a 3-mana 3/3 haste, but you're turning your land into the 3-mana 3/3 haste, which means that every time you attack with it, you don't get to spend that mana on other stuff. So it really chokes you up on mana, so I don't think it's super worth it. I don't think it plays incredibly well. Definitely hoping to find some sweet stuff in pack 3, because right now we're shaping up to be a very average deck. We have some great removal with Assassin's Ink, Flame Discharge, Ninja's Kunai's Solid. We've got a couple great explosive cards, mainly Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but if we can curve out well with Reckoner Raids, that'll also be pretty nasty. But we definitely have a lot of filler in this deck, and not a ton of synergy for our Sokenzen Smelter style artifact cards or our Steelbreaker style artifact cards. But we've got 20 out of 23 non-land cards. We could definitely get there. Definitely find some sweet stuff in the final pack. So let's see how we improve this deck as we move on to our pack 3 pick 1. I'm going to scoop up a Gravelighter here, making each player sack a creature when it comes into play, or if something died the turn you play it, instead you just get to draw a card off of it. Pretty nice, pretty flexible. Definitely a fan of the Gravelighter. This red rare is unfortunately quite unplayable. It's only going to be recasting instants and sorceries from your grave, and it costs quadruple red, which is very, very, very restrictive. We'll take a Searchlight Companion here for a nice expendable artifact creature that gives us another expendable card, an expendable little 1/1 Spirit. Unfortunately, the 1/1 Spirit that we get is not also an artifact. That'd be sweet for Sokenzen Smelter, but you can't have it all. Alright, we got some excellent stuff here, primarily the Voltage Surge for great cheap removal. I will scoop that up. It's also a Dokuchi's Shadow Walker for a big ninjutsu card that's pretty good if we attack with a Searchlight Companion or a Gravelighter and want to redo that enter the battlefield effect later. But I'm going to take the Voltage Surge. Not a lot here. Goshintai of Hidden Cruelty can just rip apart all of your opponent's 1 toughness creatures by itself. We don't have any auras or shrines for the Shrine Steward. Undercity Scrounger can pop off with Sokenzen Smelter, because if we start the loop, basically what we do is we sack one of our artifact creatures to make a 3/1, then tap this to make a treasure. And then we can use that treasure to make a 3/1. I guess this only triggers when creatures die, not artifacts, but I don't know, the synergy seems pretty fun to me to take over Goshintai of Hidden Cruelty. get some expendable treasure tokens to try to turn into 3/1s. It's only got one card in our deck that it works particularly well with, so it's definitely a pretty narrow card, but our deck as a whole is kind of lacking on like big powerful things, so we'll try to pull off some synergy plays to make up for that. Clawing Torment for another card to work with Kami of Terrible Secrets, or another Gravelighter is actually a hard choice. I think I gotta just go for another Gravelighter. Take those while I can get them. Now we're gonna take a filler 2-drop creature to fill out the curve, the Aki Emberkeeper. Could take another Guidebot, I guess, but I'd rather have another 2-drop. This Emberkeeper's pretty bad, though. We're very rarely gonna have modified creatures, so it's just gonna be a 2-mana 2/1 with no abilities. Is it bad enough to take another Guidebot? I actually think it is. I'm going to take the Guidebot. A little sad. I'd like to have a nice aggressive curve, but I don't think I want the curve that badly at the cost of running 2/1s that don't do anything. Worst, I'd like just 2/2s with no text. This pack is excellent. This is some of the stuff that you really want to see in this archetype. To really fill out the deck, cards like Experimental Synthesizer are at a premium with Sokensen Smelter and Scrapyard Steelbreaker. And then Song Shaper, if you fill these out at your 2-mana slot, these can attack really aggressively with a bunch of artifacts. So would have preferred to see a lot of packs like this. Kind of sad we just see this one here, but I guess I'll take the Synthesizer to get some card draw on the deck and for a card that works great with the Sokensen Smelter. Now we do actually get a Clawing Torment to go with Kami of Terrible Secrets, and it's just a nice aggressive card in general. So I'll scoop that up. Reckoner's Bargain's okay. I don't think it's going to make the cut, though. We've got quite a few non-creature cards, and I like Synthesizer much better in the card draw slot, so I'll take an Emberkeeper, fill out the 2-drop slot, but we might end up cutting it again just because of the 1 toughness there being really bad. Getting blocked by a 1/1 Spirit token or something will be pretty deadly. Late Gloomshrieker, so nobody's in green-black, which is pretty sad. But there are 10 different color pairs and only 8 drafters. This format, there's dual lands at common though, so you'd expect somebody in green could easily splash it in the Gloomshrieker at least. I think the card is really good. Alright. Definitely looks like our most medium deck so far, our most mediocre deck so far. But we are in a weaker color pair than we've been in all of our previous drafts. Really just wish I had a bunch of experimental synthesizers. If I had like 3 synthesizers, if I could cut any 2 cards in this deck for 2 more experimental synthesizers, I think the deck would actually be pretty great. But that's like the big downside here. So we just have one of those eggs. Alright, Arena's still super laggy. I can't wait till they finally fix that. So we cannot sort by creature or it's going to lag out on us. So let's just put all our non-creatures into a pile. And then get to the deck building here. So we've got 45 cards. We're going to have a pretty low curve. I think I'm going to cut like a 5-drop here, and the boars do work as 2-mana combat tricks as well. So we don't need to have 6 mana for them. So I think I'll cut 1 land, go to 16, and then cut Shatter States Era and a Kami to drop some of the high mana value cards. Puts us to 42 cards. We cut 2 more things. Creature versus non-creature count is at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19 creatures, but the Ironhoof Boars can be used as combat tricks too. So I think I want to cut non-creatures, but I do like all of our non-creatures. The creature count's basically 17 here. I guess we could just cut the weakest cards, like the Aki Emberkeeper. Just makes our curve a little worse. But we still have 5 cards that cost 2 mana or less that are creatures, which isn't terrible. If I do want to cut a non-creature card, I think Kunai is probably our weakest now that I take another look at it, because we have Seismic Wave and Flame Discharge, which are just more mana-efficient versions of Kunai. Plus Assassin's Ink, Voltage Surge, Clawing Torment for even more removal. So we probably are dropping Kunai. Most filler creatures are the Emberkeeper, Chain Flail Centipede, Undercity Scrounger. think those are our 3 most filler creatures. Silencer's also not great in here. We don't have many ninjutsu synergies, but I think I'm still gonna leave that in over the Ember Keeper. So I mean, this is 4 cards we can cut, and we only need to cut 2 more. Let's cut the Kunai, keep that creature count pretty high. I think I want to keep the Centipede in. And then I guess with Centipede still in here, theoretically, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ways to modify a creature. Still not a lot. Yeah, I'm going to drop the Ember Keeper, keep the Scrounger in. Scrounger almost definitely should be cut here, but when I live in Magical Christmas Land and I draw Scrounger and Smelter, that'll be pretty fun. I mean, it could be like drop Scrounger for another land, just be at 17 lands still. That would be reasonable. Could drop Scrounger for a land and then cut another card for another higher mana value thing if I go back up to 17 lands. Get another Kami of Industry back into the deck, or maybe try out a Shattered States era. You know what? Yeah, I think that might be better, just upping the curve a little bit and removing some more of the more narrow, kind of weaker cards. So drop a Scrounger, that lowers our artifact count to where maybe we're dropping Steelbreaker too. Does work well with Synthesizer. We don't have too much other super expendable stuff. We definitely don't want to end up with Smelter and Steelbreaker on board together. Just use the Smelter as a better sack engine. Drop Steelbreaker and then try out the Shattered States card as a finisher. Actually seems okay to me. Kind of just like red-black good stuff. This also ups our enchantment count by 1 to make Kami of Terrible Secrets a little bit more consistent. Because then we're pretty even on artifacts and enchantments. I mean, not like even, but as close as you can really get in red-black, because the color pair just naturally has a lot more artifacts. So 5 enchantments now, 8 artifacts. That's pretty good for the Kami. Yeah, this looks pretty reasonable to me. Not the most synergistic black-red deck I've ever drafted, but some decent cards that if we draw them together in the right order can do some pretty good things. Yeah, I'll call it a deck there. Alright, here's a look at our completed deck list for today. We are going to be an aggressive red-black strategy here. We're not super synergistic, we're not super focused on the normal red-black strategy, which is spitting out a bunch of artifacts and sacrificing those artifacts for good value. Instead, we're kind of just mostly a collection of good red cards and good black cards. We have a ton of excellent removal with Flame Discharge, Assassin's Ink, Seismic Wave, Voltage Surge, and Clawing Torment. Some great card draw with Experimental Synthesizer, and then some solid creatures throughout the curve, mainly some incredible sagas like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Double Okiba Reckoner Raid, both of those cards giving us a tremendous amount of stats for their respective mana costs. We've got a couple Gravelighters, which are pretty flexible, pretty nice for us, especially if we do get a Searchlight Companion down before we get to play a Gravelighter. That would be really good. And then just some filler stuff outside of that for the most part. We don't have a super high artifact count, so Kenzen Smelter's probably not going to be great, but every now and then it'll pop off, which is fun. We've got the Chainflail Centipede as like a 3-mana 4/2, so it can get blocked and traded into pretty easily, but it's pretty nice if we can reconfigure it onto a Gravelighter or a Searchlight Companion, get extra damage in that way. We have Kami of Terrible Secrets for a little bit of value. Draw a card, gain a life if we have an artifact and enchantment on board. We have a good amount of each of those. Then we've got card draw engines with 2 Tawashi Guidebots, and some big finishers with just some giant Iron Hoof Boars that are flexible too, because we can just discard them as combat tricks if we don't have the mana to cast them. So pretty reasonable deck here. Far from the best red-black deck I've ever drafted, because I have drafted this format a lot. I've had red-black decks with like 3 Oni Cult Anvils in them, which is where things really go crazy, but no Oni Cult Anvils, no huge synergy things going on, just some solid stuff. So without further ado, let's head into the gameplay and see how it does. Here we are for game 1. Bit of a slower hand here. We're not going to do anything till turn 3, but I think that's fine with both of our colors, and it's okay to have a 4-lander at the start when we've got a good 6-drop to try to draw into. And now we drew into a 2-mana play, and it's one that works quite well with Searchlight Companion. If our opponent doesn't get some cheap blockers on the ground, we can turn our 1/1 flyer into a 3/1 on the ground. Orochi Merge Keeper. Well, that is a mana dork, so I think trading a 3/1 on the ground into it would be fine. So I might turn Companion into a 3/1 haste with my 4 mana, spend 3 on Companion and 1 to turn it into the 3/1 with haste on the ground. Immediately attack with it. Patchwork Automaton. So that gets bigger every time they cast an artifact spell, but they're green-white, which is not a super artifact-heavy color pair. There's plenty of white artifacts, but not a lot of green ones. They have 2 toughness to block with now. I could slam a Guidebot down here, because I'm a little less excited about turning Companion into a 3/1 haste now anyway, because they can just block with the Automaton, because I don't expect that to get much bigger. I'd be okay trading into the Mana Dork, but not really the Automaton. If they double block either one of these, I think that's fine. We get a 2-for-1 trade there, so I guess we probably attack first and then play Guidebot and put a counter on itself. Maybe we put a counter on Smelter. I don't think we put a counter on Centipede, though. Well, no, I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to put a counter on Centipede. 5/3 is a super threatening attacker. The consideration that would make me not want to put a counter on Centipede would be that I might want to reconfigure it later, and then if I use it as an equipment, then the +1/+1 counter isn't doing anything for me. Alright, they've got a Rebuke for the Guidebot. That's a little sad, but at least I didn't try to put the counter on the Guidebot itself. That would have played really poorly for me. Then I just wouldn't have the +1/+1 counter at all. So they're down to 11. We're beating down. There's their own Tawashi Guidebot. Does work great with the Patchwork Automaton. Gives it a counter since they cast an artifact, and now they put a counter wherever they want, which is going to be on the Guidebot. So the Guidebot can single-handedly trade into the Centipede now. Fable of the Mirrorbreaker was a nasty draw. That's probably the play, although I guess I have double Ironhoof Boar. Oh, I wish I had 1 more mana so I could do both of these things. It's probably best to just play a Fable. I mean, this attacks as a 5/3 with an Ironhoof Boar that's 8 power, and it's trampling, and it's not going to get killed by anything. And if they don't block, they just die. I guess I just send in the squad, because we could just find lethal out of nowhere with double Ironhoof Boar. And we can pretty easily save one of these. Okay, so is this going to find lethal? I'm going to do 2 damage. I'm going to trample over for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 8 damage. Yeah, that's going to be exact lethal, I think. I guess we'll see if I'm bad at math, but I think this is exact lethal. Alright, double Ironhoof Boar just cheeses them out of the game real quick. That would definitely not be a fun game to be in if I was my opponent there. I would not be happy to see double Ironhoof Boar plus 6 power and trample that turn to just end it out of nowhere, but I guess we're pretty happy to do that. We are 1-0 now heading into game 2. Here we are for game 2 on the play with what is likely to be our best curve of the day. Unless we have a curve that's like turn 1 Reckoner Raid, turn 2 Leech Gauntlet, turn 3 Fable the Mirrorbreaker later. I don't imagine our deck is super likely to draw into a better curve than this. This is nasty. Turn 1 Reckoner Raid, turn 2 Leech Gauntlet, turn 3 Searchlight Companion. Ooh, drawn to an Assassin's Ink. I do need to draw another black source for that, but that could be very helpful later. To clear a path for all of our dorks, we are playing against a green deck. Bamboo Grove Archer it is. That is going to stop our attacks here till I can Voltage Surge or Assassin's Ink it, which I could do right now, but I'm only getting 2 extra damage in. I'm going to just be mana efficient and drop the Searchlight Companion and pass. And I'll probably Voltage Surge the Bamboo Grove Archer so I have the Assassin's Ink for something bigger. Yeah, now I'm definitely going to Voltage Surge because I can just sack the Leech Gauntlet since it's pacified anyway. And we're just looking for some non-lands, run out some more creatures, keep jamming in for damage. Era of Enlightenment. They're going to scry 2 this turn. Next turn they gain 2 life, and the turn after that they'll get a first striking blocker. That will take some time. Alright, and that's it for now. Tawashi Guidebot is the draw. I don't get to hold up Assassin's Ink if I play this, but I definitely need to keep getting more power on the board, so let's buff the Menace card, I think. The Menace or the Flyer, because they're more likely to get extra damage in. I'm going to buff the Menace. Send in the team. Drop a Swamp here, trying to get to a point where we can tap Guidebot, draw a card, and hold up Assassin's Ink, and I guess 5 mana is enough to do that. 3 on the Guidebot, 2 on the Ink. Spirited Companion from our opponent means that our 1/1 on the ground doesn't get to attack in well, the Guidebot doesn't get to attack in well either, so we'll just jam in for 4 with these 2, draw a card off of Guidebot. Web Spinner Cuff, that I think I will Assassin's Ink. Ideally, we can draw something else here. Yikes, alright, we are flooding a little bit, but I've got the card draw engine of the Tawashi Guidebot. So I can definitely try to draw out of this. And I can actually still attack with my 1/1 here just so that the Era of Enlightenment doesn't give them enough creatures to double block the Road Captain. They still have to cast another creature to double block my Menace card. They're down to 7. Geothermal Kami. They can pick up the Hand of Enlightenment, but if they do, they can't block Nezumi Road Captain, so they aren't going to pick it up. They're just going to hold that as a 4/3 blocker. Another land for us. Let's draw another card. And another land. Alright. See how it is, Arena. Trade our 3/3 Menace into their 4/3 to get it out of the way, but then they still have a first striker chillin'. I've got enough mana to spend 4 mana on Guide, but I don't need to leave a modified creature on board for this card. But I do feel like any removal, being able to stop one of these as a blocker, lets the Road Captain hit them, so I should probably just hold on to the Road Captain. Network Terminal is just mana fixing until they hit another artifact, then they can use it to draw and discard every turn. Alright, Gravelighter is a great draw. I'm going to draw a card first. Again. Oh, I guess it's 4 mana to do it now. Okay, then I guess we don't draw a card first, because I don't have any 1 mana creatures left in this deck. I've got a Reckoner Raid in there, but that's not immediately a creature, so we're going to have to sack our Flyer to the Gravelighter if I want to get as much damage in as possible. I guess I could sack the Gravelighter to itself. Keep the smaller Flyer just to get more damage in initially. Feels worse though. I think I just hit for 3 this turn and keep the Gravelighter to attack in harder next turn. And I suppose I should Guidebot still during my turn in case I hit another Reckoner Raid. Oh, I'm losing my mind. I don't know why I thought Guidebot was going to cost me the full 4. For some reason I thought I lost my modified creature, but no, it's still there. Nezumi Road Captain. Ooh, Naomi Pillar of Order. Luckily for us, we just killed their enchantment, so the Naomi does not spit out 2/2s. They have to have an artifact and enchantment to do that. So that was a really lucky Gravelighter for us. Draw my card. I keep over-tapping. Oh my god, not that it's mattering, because we're just hitting more lands. Put them to 1 and pass. Alright. Kept over-tapping for Guidebot there, but other than that, I think I played it out fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to get some flooding out of the way in a game that it really didn't matter because our opponent didn't have much to respond with, so get the 12 land game out of the way now. Hopefully don't flood out too bad in pivotal moments in future games. We'll see. We are 2-0 now heading into Game 3. Here we are for Game 3 with a pretty medium keep. Drawn to an experimental synthesizer. That's pretty sweet. I'm not going to play it until I have a land drop to spend, so that if I hit a land, I can play it immediately. I could wait on this until I have a bunch of mana so that no matter what I hit, I can play it. I think that's pretty reasonable. Just make sure I get the 2-for-1 value off of it. Don't play it till I have like 3 mana up afterward at least, because most of my cards are 3 mana or less. Okay, draw a Dokuchi Silencer. That's pretty good with Searchlight Companion. So that is not bad. Might be pretty good in this matchup because they're just ramping up for now with a Grafted Growth. So they might be playing some big creatures that'll be hard for us to kill. I would love it if they had like a Bamboo Grove Archer. Oh, Goshintai of Hidden Cruelty is disgustingly good in this matchup. We have a lot of 1-toughness creatures and that just eats through them. Well, that's pretty horrendous for us. I can't play a Guidebot unless I put the counter on itself, or the Goshintai is just going to kill it, especially if they have multiple Goshintai. That'll be super bad for me. So I guess I'm just on Experimental Synthesizer, trying to find some other lines here, because we've got 3 mana up, so we can cast the majority of our deck. Not the 5-drop. I think there's 5 cards in the deck we couldn't play out of our 29 for the Synthesizer, and we hit the 1 out of 5. Or not 1 out of 5. It'd be 5 out of 29. That's about 1 out of every 6. I guess close enough. Basically hit the 1 out of 5. Bad luck. RIP. Alright, I'm just going to torment this Goshintai. Start poking them. While I still can. My 1 turn that I still have the Spirit. We're not playing Silencer because it'll just die to Goshintai. I'm just holding our mana up. Golden Tail Disciple for lifelink is also quite bad for us. It's going to really nullify all the damage the Clawing Torment is doing. There's a Weaver of Harmony, so they can double up their activated ability of the Goshintai of Hidden Cruelty. Or their triggered abilities, whichever it is. It's a triggered ability, technically. And all their artifacts get bigger. And I was hoping this would not happen this game. I think I need to wait on the Experimental Synthesizer, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9... 10, 11 cards that cost 3 mana or more. So 11 of these 27 are uncastable if I spend 3 to sack this. So I guess I just play the Guidebot, put the counter on itself, and pass. Because then it's big enough to survive the Goshintai. Befriending the Moths, they can just fly right over the Guidebot. With the Weaver of Harmony, since it can't block anything else they have well. Oh lord, Michiko's Reign of Truth, incredible saga. One of their creatures is about to get like +5/+5 this turn. They're going to give it to the flyer, and it's +6/+6. Because I forgot about the Grafted Growth. Alright, well this game's pretty over. Because the Reign of Truth is going to trigger again next turn, give another thing +6/+6. And our hand is just so dead to go Shintai that we did not get to establish much of a board state for blocking here. So next turn they just make another flying creature with +7/+7 total, +6/+6 from the Rain of Truth, +1/+1 from Befriending. So we have to basically immediately draw into some kind of removal. Fable of the Mirror Breaker's not going to do it. Super dead in the sky. Alright, 2-1 as we head into game 4. Solid opening hand for game 4. We've got a Smelter to play early and a Voltage Surge for interaction. Double Boar's a little awkward in that it's 2 6-drops, but they can be leveraged as combat tricks early in the game. We do want to draw a couple more creatures to play at some point, but we've already got 3 mana in the opening hand, so most of our creatures we draw into will be castable. Probably will just Surge the Fang, since that is going to just block and kill one of my creatures, and I'd like to just keep them all around. I guess I should have just used it during our turn. But this way I can just take 1 damage, hold up the Voltage Surge till the end step in case they play like the 2 mana 2/2 that makes all their enchantments cheaper. It would be better to kill that than the Fang if they play that. But now if they have a combat trick, mainly like Tamio's Safekeeping, they can protect the Fang of Shigeki from the Voltage Surge. But worst case scenario, getting one of those out of the way is not the worst. Still trading a card for a card. Alright, they are just going to let the Fang die. And draw into Clawing Torment that could just nuke the Fang. Sad. Hopefully they're playing some Bamboo Grove Archers, because that is the matchup where Clawing Torment becomes absurd. The Bamboo Grove Archer is a 2 mana 3/3 defender with reach, so it already can't attack, so you just make it so it can't attack or block. It just becomes a massive liability, just constantly making its controller lose life and doing nothing else. It's pretty sweet. Alright, holding up my mana for my Ironhoof Boar, if that'll save Smelter from some kind of weird trick. But probably just playing Centipede post-combat. I don't imagine anything they do is going to make me want to channel an Ironhoof Boar. Alright, so we just hit for 2 with the Smelter, drop a Chainflail Centipede, pass the turn. Kinda just chilling. Jamming out some dorks, attacking in, opponent isn't doing much. Pretty cool with things right now. Geothermal Kami, just a 4/3, we can torment that. Or I could just discharge it and torment something else. I think that's small enough to torment that and then discharge the next thing. I think that's fine with me, and the earlier we torment, the more damage we're going to get out of it. So they're down to 12. I've got 6 extra damage out of nowhere in my hand, so I could just kill them next turn. I can do 12 on board, so if we can discharge whatever they play, and then just double bore, that will be game. So send in the Geothermal Kami since it can't block. We will go down to 16. And they're just going to pass turn. I'm going to try to just kill them here, but if they have an instant speed removal spell, it's going to play quite poorly. Because I am 1 mana away from just casting Ironhoof Boars, which will also very much kill them. You know what? Do I just play it safe then? I know I could lethal them here, but if I like double Ironhoof Boar and then they blow one of these up, I don't have great follow-ups. So that would be one of the few ways I could lose this game, is if I end up trying to double Ironhoof Boar them and then they just kill my Centipede in response. Then I just hit them for 5 and I have like no follow-up plays. They're at 6 taking 1 a turn. They just play like a Blossom Prancer or something and all of a sudden they have a 4/4 down that can block Smelter. Yeah, I mean they could stabilize really hard if they have instant speed removal in response to Ironhoof Boar. But if they don't, and I just hold up all my Flame Discharge mana for whatever blocker they end up playing, we can almost definitely kill them in 2 turns, and we do not lose to just a removal spell here by doing it this way. So I'm going to play it safe. They're down to 4, and there should not be very many cards that can get them out of this, and they are just going to scoop it up regardless. So we are 3-1 now as we head into game number 5. Here we are for game 5. Bit of an awkward start. We have a 1-drop and a 4-drop. Removal spell in between. So as with most hands, we gotta draw into some more plays to curve out pretty consistently. We did not hit a 2-drop. Our opponent starts with Soken's Smelter. We'll probably Seismic Wave that. We have drawn just a couple lands so far. What are the odds of them playing a 1 toughness or less non-artifact creature? Pretty low, but I think I still wait for Seismic Wave anyway. They're just going to Lethal Exploit my 2/2. Now Kami's just going to be a 3/4 that doesn't do anything else. Okay. I think the odds of them playing a 1 toughness or less non-artifact creature pretty low in red-black. Any 1 toughness creatures are probably just going to be artifacts. So I'll just boop that. Draw into a Gravelighter. Alright. No value Kami. It's a sad day. 4 mana 3/4s. Let's go. Life of Toshiro Umezawa. The mythic uncommon. Ridiculously good card here. Gravelighter is so bad right now. It's just 3 mana to sack my own creature. So we're just chilling here, flooding out. Uncastable Gravelighter. It is how it is. Ooh! That can end the flooding right quick. Ironhoof Boar is actually like the perfect draw, because we've got exactly the mana to jam this thing out now. Alright. Well, that makes up for all these lands. Now they're useful. Well, the 7th one isn't, but the 6th for the Ironhoof Boar is great. Looks like our opponent is probably flooding a bit as well. They are on 6 lands turn 6. But maybe they've got 6 mana worth of stuff to do as well. Twisted Embrace, alright, that is exceptional. There goes the Ironhoof Boar, and their Memory of Toshiro is even bigger. And they poke me with the boar. We have drawn land number 8. Alright. Just Gravelighter. I don't even know what we sack here. Probably the Gravelighter, because Kami can block this stuff, and I'm not going to outrace them with a single 2/2 flyer. Alright, they sack the tapped creature, so we don't get to jam in for 3 this turn. And they Clawing Torment the Kami, so that can't block. And that makes us lose the race because of the extra life loss. Did draw into another creature though, and we're in a top deck war where each player is very flooded right now. They top deck Okiba Reckoner Raid, which is a phenomenal start to the top deck war. That really ruins the race because we lose a life and they gain a life twice in a row. Gravelighter helps a lot. You can play that post-combat. Get rid of the Clawing Torment and kill their 3/4. So now each player's drawn an exceptional card in this race. See how things go from here. We get drained again. They're up to 7. We're down to 9. And they have to just pass? Alright, Leech Gauntlet's another great draw for us. Just reconfigure that. Now we have a lifelinker in the race. I should have put it on Smelter, I think. Actually, I probably attempt to hit them. No, they have an instant of some kind. I could go all in here and attempt to lethal them. I guess I do, because if they have a removal spell, and I don't try to do this, then they just kill the Gravelighter anyway. Okay. All right. Well, that went pretty well for us. That was an awkward game of Magic. Not a super exciting kind of ending overall, because we both just had a lot of lands. It's like, all right, let's see what each player draws, and we're just going to cast whatever we draw each turn. But, I mean, I'll take it. We drew a little bit better in the end. It is what it is. 4-1 heading into game number 6 with a positive record no matter what. Here we are for game 6 with a snap mulligan. Very unkeepable. This is almost as bad. Slightly better, but we are still lacking the correct color for the cards that we have the majority of in our hand. We have 3 red cards and no red sources. Feels like a mold of 5. I guess we're on the draw here, and any land gets us to Chain Flail Centipede. We just get rid of the 5 mana card here. Alright. It's definitely infinitely better than our first hand. And we're on the draw to try to pick up more lands. And we do find a land for the Centipede. Still need to find a red source, but both of our red spells in hand are removal spells, which we don't really need to cast immediately. We can cast them later on better cards, and that'll play out fine. Uh-oh. Draw a 3rd red card. Can't play anything turn 2 now. Our opponent is gaining a ton of life between Okiba Reckoner Raid and Leech Gauntlet. They're on the play as well, so their Road Captain is already active. And they're going to ninjutsu something here. Oh, yikes. Ninjutsu and a Biting Palm Ninja when we're stuck off red and they can just exile our Chain Flail Centipede from hand. That's probably just a death sentence. Feels bad. Oh. Okay, I guess we are still in this game. They exile one of our red cards and we're very okay with that. Still definitely pretty far behind. Biting Palm Ninja is an excellent card. The 2-for-1 of getting a 3/3 on board and exiling a card permanently is pretty nuts. Guess I just get mana efficient here, play the biggest card. Alright, we're definitely behind, but the game isn't just instantly over. At the very least. But we'll have to see what they follow all this up with. There's a lethal exploit for the Centipede. Now our Road Captain can't block anything favorably, so we go down to 12. And they can recast the Leech Gauntlet now. But they've got a Virus Beetle to play instead. Okay, I can't play these red cards anyway. Drop a Synthesizer because I'm going to need cards that immediately impact the board to stay alive, like Voltage Surge. But missed the red source again. Hold on to this land in case they ninjutsu the Virus Beetle back. I can still have a Voltage Surge if I top deck a mountain. Doubt it's going to matter at this point. Kill the 3/3 here. Because if they have a ninjutsu card, I'd much rather they bring back their Reckoner Raid than bring back the Biting Palm Ninja to where they could get the Menace counter back again and exile another card from our hand. And they just naturally have another Virus Beetle, don't even ninjutsu the first one. So we'll discard that Swamp. Another red card. Pass the turn. Now we can't stop them from ninjutsuing a Virus Beetle back and making us discard our boar. If they have a ninjutsu card, because I can only block one of the 2 beetles. They play their land for turn, they put lifelink onto the Menace card, and they're just going to jam in and drain us for 2 each turn. We do hit the mountain now. That can be used to clear out the Nezumi Road Captain. Wait till they go to combat to do that, so that they can't unconfigure the Leech Gauntlet and attack with it for free. They'll have to spend the 4 to do that. Izumi Blade Blaster, 3-2 Death Touch. We probably trade into that, take 4. And die in pretty quick. Gravelighter is so bad on this board, it's not even funny. Spend 3 mana to kill 1 Virus Beetle. That's all I do. That's not even worth casting. Top deck removal for Road Captain. I guess I could Iron Hoof board. Doesn't have to be used on an attacking creature. Should remember that. I should have board. Not that it'll matter. Because, yeah, all I can do this turn is Gravelighter. Okay, so I could have kept my 2-2 on board, but if I blocked anything off of that attack, it would have died here. So I guess I would block trade into the Leech Gauntlet. I'd be at 5 life instead, and they wouldn't have a Leech Gauntlet anymore. If I had board my Reckoner Raid. Then I play a Gravelighter, they sack Bamboo Grove Archer, and I still die. Okay, so I was still dead here. But I didn't play it outright. But it really did not matter. We just had some really rough draws where the only hope here was a mulligan to 5, which is still quite likely a death sentence against their hand because they played 2 Virus Beetles and a Biting Palm Ninja against us. So starting the game down 2 cards off a mull to 5 into Virus Beetle, Biting Palm Ninja, I think even with a really good 5-card hand, that would still be a loss. So 4-2, not a lot we can do there as we head into game number 7. Here we are for game 7, and we are back at it again, drawing some really awkward mana. At least I can Companion on 3 and Kami of Industry on 5, but I am going to take the mulligan here. This is much better. This will be our first game we get to cast a Fable of the Mirror Breaker where it actually matters. Let's go. I think I just keep 3 mana because the Fable can potentially give me some treasure tokens. So I get rid of a mountain because I need double black for Assassin's Ink. And they're going to start with a turn 1 Iron Apprentice. This Kami of Terrible Secrets could be really good if we get the treasure token from Fable, because then we'll have an enchantment and an artifact on board, guaranteed. They are on black-white, turn 1 Iron Apprentice, turn 2 Leech Gauntlet. They are on the play and they are curving out on us like nobody's business. 1-drop, 2-drop, and we don't have a 2-drop in our hand, so gonna start very behind on board. And on life total, oh god, and now Reality Chip just lets them draw infinite cards. If they reconfigure it, I don't have the mana for Assassin's Ink right now, so I can't kill it before they get to reconfigure. So that does pop off if they reconfigure it next turn. If they wait, though, and just play more creatures to get more aggressive, then we can Assassin's Ink the Reality Chip before they reconfigure it. Which is definitely the play if they let us do it. If they don't, Reality Chip lets them play anything off the top of their deck. Lands, spells, creatures, anything. So it turns into a huge card draw engine. Combat trick they have here. They could Clawing Torment my Goblin Shaman post-combat, I guess. I think I need to just take this. This Shaman's pretty important. Okay, they're just holding all their mana up. Let's do the thing. Let's discard 2, draw 2, I think. Find a Flame Discharge. So, I would like to be able to blow up this Reality Chip. So I want to hold up the mana for Assassin's Ink, which means I don't get to play Kami of Terrible Secrets this turn. Still not going to have good blocks for my Goblin Shaman, and they're only hitting me for 2 next turn, so I'm going to get the treasure token here for the future. Oh, you know what they could have had last turn? They could have had Suit Up. Make something a 4/5 and draw a card. That would have been super bad. Alright, I'm going to take my 3 damage. Play a land. Go to pass the turn. Let's try to ink the chip. I've got the 3 mana if they have the Mirror Shell Crab to pay for that. Okay, so Reality Chip dies. Let's go. That's a big deal. Drawn to a Clawing Torment. And now flip our Fable the Mirror Breaker. Have 2/2/2s on this board. And then Fable of the Mirror Breaker plus Kami of Terrible Secrets could be pretty insane. Do I play around instant speed removal on Reflection of Kiki-Jiki, or do I just jam out the Kami? Because if I play Clawing Torment before I play the Kami, then even if they have an instant to kill my Reflection, I'll still draw the card off Kami of Terrible Secrets. That could be important, but they only have 2 cards left in hand. I guess it's not the worst. Not the worst position in the world if I don't draw an extra card here. We're already doing okay on card advantage. Okay, they do have the Mirror Shell Crab, so they'll counter the Kami with that. That works. Guess I should have done it post-combat in case of that. But I kind of like just blocking the Leech Gauntlet now with this token. How does this work? This can copy tokens? Okay, hold up. I'm just going to jam in then. Yeah, I should have attacked. And then played the Kami. Since this can copy tokens, so I can just copy my Goblin Shaman and block with it. I can use Reflection on defense, which is pretty sweet. Okay, let's cash in the Discharge. Cash in the treasure tokens here. Just take 1 damage. Or get my Reflection Clawing Tormented. If I get my Reflection Clawing Tormented, I am winning on board. We have a 2/2 versus a 2/2, and I've got another spell, and they'd be out of spells if they spend something on Reflection. Alright, cool. There's Voltage Surge for Apprentice. I mean, kind of just golden here. I might even just Clawing Torment the Apprentice. Clear out anything else they play. Now use Reflection on attacks instead of blocks. Let's take 1 damage a turn. Copy one of their creatures with Shattered States Era. Well, borrow one of their creatures with Shattered States Era and then copy it. It's pretty fancy. I think we're doing alright. If they have any ninjutsu cards for this Iron Apprentice, that's going to play quite well for them. Get rid of the Clawing Torment when they attack. But looks like they don't right now. Again, pretty handedly winning the race. Keep jamming in. We're going to have like infinite mana. Wanderer's Intervention. Alright, so now I need to play another creature to duplicate with Reflection. Just play the Shadow, or the Silencer. Guess I could attack with Reflection and pick it up with the Silencer with the ninjutsu effect. That would be fine too. But I'm just going to jam out for immediate damage instead of grinding out extra value, since I have the Shattered States Era in hand for a bunch of extra damage too. Okay, there's a Gravelighter. So I guess I can Gravelighter, make a duplicate of it, sack the duplicate, but then I get rid of the Clawing Torment. I mean, that's still fine. So this way I sack the duplicate and then I draw a card off of the other trigger. That's worth it. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. Another land for our opponent. Draw an Okiba Reckoner Raid, drain them for some life. Just hold up Reflection to use on Gravelighter. So if they play anything, I just make a copy of Gravelighter and they have to sack it. Reflection of Kiki-Jiki. Oh my god, this Fable of the Mirror Breaker has just been absolutely insane. Okay, I can't do anything about that. Synthesizer is a very solid draw. Find land for turns, sack the synthesizer. Since we've got all these treasure, we can definitely cast anything we hit. There's a Kami of Industry to play. Could return the synthesizer from grave. There's a 2-mana or less spell. Oh my god, let's just go. Good grief, this game has been nuts. Oh, goodbye, Gravelighter number 2. Alright, so as we kind of imagined when we pack one, pick one, it turns out Reflection of Kiki-Jiki and Fable of the Mirror Breaker are some bonkers Magic cards. That was absurd stuff from the Fable. And we are going to be 5-2 now, meaning that we are in the money with this pretty average, pretty mediocre deck, so I'm very happy with that. But we'll see how far we can take it as we head into round number 8 now. Here we are for round 8 with a solid curve. We have a turn 2 Leech Gauntlet and a turn 3 Chainflail Centipede, then a Clawing Torment to clear a path with a combat trick of the Ironhoof Boar in the middle somewhere. Kami of Transcendence. Pretty good card. Even if I kill it, it's going to come back eventually when they play any enchantments. So, not in love with that. I think I still offer the trade here, because I doubt they take it, and if they try to take it, I can Ironhoof Boar. And they didn't try to take the trade, so we got to get that 4 life point swing with the 2 lifelink damage, and then we just jam out the Chainflail Centipede. Now I have the mana to play Gravelighter and Clawing Torment in the same turn. Obviously, I want a Gravelighter first, so they can't just sack whatever I put Torment onto. And that definitely looks like what we want to do this turn. No blocks. Cast a Gravelighter, cast a Torment afterwards on whichever creature they keep. We're going to be sacking our Gravelighter here, so we can jam in for all the damage. Keep pressure on their life total with Clawing Torment. They're going to sack the Goshintai, okay. So we'll Torment the Kami. Don't have to, but want to be mana efficient here and get them losing a life every turn. So they're down to 12, and we are racing. They're down to 11 now off of Clawing Torment. Probably start doing synthesizer things. Holding up the board during combat, but hoping that we can just keep it to play as a 6-drop to finish this game. Another Goshintai of Boundless Vigor. That definitely explains the sacrifice last turn then. If they've just got a backup anyway. Double Boar? Well, we will more than happily Boar on whatever they block. If they don't block, they're just dead. If they do block, I guess they're still dead, because they stop 2 damage, so that's still 4 getting trampled over, plus 10, and then they take 1 during their turn. Oh my god. So, I mean, we just win every game if we draw 2 boars. Maybe I should have just drafted like 50 copies of Ironhoof Boar. Card has been exceptional for us. Alright. That'll do it, I guess. Nice quick game of Magic there. We are 6-2 now. Heading into the final boss, a final battle here, and a chance at a 7-win run. Pretty exciting stuff. See how it all balances out in the end as we head into round number 9, the final battle, win or lose. Here we are for round 9 on the play. Love to see it with a 1-drop, a 2-drop, a 3-drop, and a 4-drop. Not the most aggressive 3 and 4 mana cards here, but we are curving out on the play, which is really important. And now we have a really aggressive 5-drop too, so every draw in our deck is good. If we keep hitting lands, we're curving out. If we hit more non-lands, they're probably castable spells. We are going to be jamming in here. Let's offer that Leech Gauntlet for Song Shaper trade here. They probably just take it. but I am not going to have the mana to reconfigure a Leech Gauntlet anytime soon, and they're just going to take the damage. I did not expect that. I'm pretty happy with that. We are on the aggressive lead here for sure, since we're on the play, and we're going to be casting a spell with the most of our mana every turn for some time to come. So here's an experimental synthesizer for our opponent, which buffs the Song Shaper and hits a Bronze Plate Boar, which is not castable. So pretty lucky for us there. They do drop an Oni Cult Anvil. All right. So now they're definitely going to have blocks up because the Anvil can keep spitting out some 1/1 constructs if artifacts are leaving the battlefield during their turn. We've hit land 5. We can Shattered States Era next turn. Let's go. So let's Guidebot and buff the Leech Gauntlets. They don't have anything big enough to kill it here. I could also just buff the Spirit and attack with everybody. All they can do is trade into the Leech Gauntlet. I think it's better to buff the Leech Gauntlet and attack with everything except the Spirit. And we just hit with everybody. They're down to 10, and we have a Shattered States Era next turn, which we're going to hit them with their own creature, and then +1/+0 to all of our creatures is also a pretty big effect, with probably 4 creatures left on board at that point, based on the fact that they're looking over our creatures a bit here. They might be blowing one of them up with a Voltage Surge or something. Okay, so they're going to Anvil away the experimental synthesizer, draw their card for turn. They just find another land. They've already played land for turn, I think, based on the fact that their swamps are spread apart here. I think they played a swamp this turn. Yeah, this is unreasonable because this is turn 4 for them. So yeah. Okay, now we Shattered States Era, steal the Song Shaper. And they're just going to scoop them up. That's a 7-win run. That is our first and only 7-win run of the return to Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Premier Drafts. And it's a deck that was, in my opinion, probably the weakest deck that we've drafted in terms of individual card power level. But just having a nice aggressive curve can pan out into some nice victories. We got a couple free wins off of multiple Ironhoof Boars for a bunch of extra trample damage. So I would say Ironhoof Boar is probably the biggest overperformer by quite a bit. But that final game as well, just 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop will do that when you're on the play. So don't need to have the craziest cards in the world if you've got a nice consistent curve and you get a bit lucky and draw some good aggressive stuff. So one last look at the deck again. Biggest overperformer is the Ironhoof Boar by a lot. Shattered States Era does count as an overperformer. I only played it in that one game, but I've basically never really drafted it highly at all or played it at all. But now that I played it one time, I was like, okay, that was actually kind of sweet, but almost any 5-drop is pretty sweet when you're curving out with all of your mana every turn until turn 5, so I don't know about that one. Biggest underperformer is actually probably Gravelighter, because we didn't manage to get any Virus Beetles, any of the like really expendable cheap creatures. So we do have to sacrifice a real creature for this to get our opponent to sack a creature, and we don't have a choice with how we're playing it if we're not like already in a good aggressive position. We kind of have to just play it and each player sacks a creature. So when our opponent has good expendable little 1/1s and stuff, it plays out pretty poorly, like the game where our opponent had a couple Virus Beetles. So I'd say biggest underperformer goes to Gravelighter overall. Biggest overperformer, definitely the couple of Ironhoof Boars there, but big overperformer to the whole deck. Nice 7-win run. We will absolutely take it. We're getting 2,200 gems and 6 packs. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you're interested in seeing some more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link or the join button in the description below. And other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.